How's it going, guys? It's Cryptobud here for today. In this video, I'm going to do my top 5 long-term core holdings for cryptocurrencies for 2018. These coins are going to be for a beginner or for anybody just barely starting out, trying to build a portfolio, and they have no idea what altcoins to buy. If you have Bitcoin and Ethereum, I actually took these out because these are supposed to be your go-to coins first, and I think everybody should start off with those. But these are the other altcoins that can potentially give your portfolio a little boost in the long term. Now, before I move on to these coins here, there's a couple of things I want to mention. One is that these coins are not going to be the ones that people are going to be trading in and out. So if you're looking for that type of coin where it's going to go up and then all of a sudden it just sells off, these coins are not going to do it. These are usually small movers, but they're usually the best ones to save and put away somewhere where you don't actually see them, because it gets really tempting to kind of trade in and out and try to get the next coin. And if you were like me when I first started, I just try to get the one that started moving quickly, and later on I realized I sold some of my core holdings. All right, so let's take a look at exactly how to build this portfolio from the ground up. When you're looking for coins specifically, for any sort of coin that you want to get started on, the first thing you always want to look for is consistency in terms of performance for the tech and consistency in the coin performance overall. Now, this is not financial advice, so again, do your own research in terms of these, but I found this to be very helpful for me last year when I was barely getting started looking at some of these altcoins. I have definitely been an investor in Bitcoin, Ethereum for a very long time. That's how I kind of got started. But once I started to dive into the altcoin market, it became a whole different story. So I think it's important to realize that these altcoins are not going to survive. Most of them, 99% of them, are actually going to go to zero at some point. I wouldn't say they're going to go to zero completely, but I think they're going to lose a lot of their value. So right now we're kind of like at that peak where everything's kind of going up and everything looks good, but overall, at the end of the day, you can't have all these coins all playing a big role, because what's going to happen is there's going to be a washout. So you want this really strong coins to kind of put in there. All right, so the first criteria in any coin that you want to look for is market cap. All right, when I look for coins, I always look for market cap specifically, because this is where the bulk of my money is going to be. Some of these smaller cap coins, they can do very well, but unfortunately, sometimes they can also lose really hard. So especially when you first put in your first dollar or anything in these altcoins, you want to double check that you actually have something that's not going to go bust the next day first. So looking at this chart here, I'm going to remove Bitcoin, Ethereum, because these coins should be automatically in any portfolio. In fact, for me, I always have Bitcoin, I always have Ethereum. So everybody, I would consider those two like your Microsoft, your Apple, your Google kind of type of thing. So again, do your own homework, but those are the ones everybody starts off with. So those are great coins to have, but let's take a look at some of the other ones that I think it's going to be a little bit more worthwhile. All right, so the first one is going to be coins that are in this top page. I would say I wouldn't go anything lower than 20. In fact, I think that if you go anything lower than 20, you probably are going to run the risk of it underperforming in the long term, because of the inconsistency in the performance. That's not to say they can't go up all the time, but most of the time, these coins, generally speaking, if you start going down lower in the charts, that's where it gets a little bit more dangerous in regards to losing. So just keep that in mind. So I'm going to keep my list somewhere in the top 25. And definitely, if you want a little bit more, gamble a little bit, you can go a little lower. But for beginners and for anybody just starting off, I think these are good. Also, if you are been seasoned investor and just don't want to look at the charts all day, these are the coins I think you can kind of put away. All right, so the first coin is, let me go down the list here, Icon. Okay, now, I've already talked about Icon quite a bit in my other videos, and I'm pretty sure you've heard about Icon before, ICX. Icon is a great coin to hold for a lot of different reasons. The first thing with Icon is it's actually considered to be a Korean type of platform that's going to build smart contracts on. It's very similar to Ethereum in many cases. The only difference with Icon is that it's actually a smaller market cap. So it only has 3 billion. So if you're looking for coins, you want to look for coins that have not really moved that much. because obviously if you buy something like Ethereum, your growth potential is a little slower. So Icon is actually a really interesting one because it actually uses very similar, the technology is a little different from Ethereum, but it operates on the same principles of linking government and linking enterprise to using blockchain. So if you're interested in that specific space, I think that's going to be very large. In fact, they already have an existing partnership with Korea, and on top of that, they have existing business relationships. Koreans overall, especially in the Asian countries, like to do homegrown their own companies. And every country right now is competing with each other on how to go about looking at blockchain technology and how can we incorporate in their own country. Nobody's going to let Ethereum do its thing. Everybody's going to want a piece of the pie. And I believe that Icon has not only the support of the government, but also the support of the businesses around them that could catapult Icon into a much higher level. Now, in regards to how it's compared to Ethereum, since we're actually on that same page here, Icon currently is trading at $9. And I do believe that it definitely has a lot more room to grow. The only downside is its supply cap, which is at 400 million and 300 million. So that's a little bit on the high end side, but compared to Ethereum, I mean, that's still pretty low. The other thing I really like about Icon, if you take a look at the markets overall, it's being traded in a lot of these Asian exchanges, which puts it at a very good advantage because it's pretty much center stage in these Asian countries that eventually are going to pay top dollar for these coins. Okay. Now, the other thing I want to talk about Icon is that they're going to be releasing a lot of their key technological developments in the next couple of weeks. Specifically in this month, they'll be releasing their mainnet, and they're going to have partnerships already with Aeon and also with Kyber networks. So these are like a trifecta of coins that are working together to build a presence and an ecosystem in Korea. Now, again, these are going to be competing with other different platforms, but since you don't know which one is going to run, the best solution here is to take a look at Icon as an enterprise level platform that most likely is going to have already existing partnerships and first mover advantage in South Korea specifically. So this one I think will be a long-term hold, 1 year out. I don't really see Icon going any lower unless there's something big like some sort of regulation, but just the fact that they get the green light from the government puts me at ease as far as the regulations in that specific space. So with all of that said, watch out for Icon. I think it's building an entire ecosystem that's going to be supporting a lot of different types of projects in Korea, where Korean companies and specifically Korean homegrown programmers and developers are going to be building upon that platform. And we're talking about applications in the medical field, we're talking about applications in the financial field, etc. This one I think is going to be good at $3 billion market cap. It's a steal. Any prices lower than that, I'd probably be loaning up the boat. All right, moving on to our next coin. This one is going to be one of my favorites, which is going to be Stellar. Now, Stellar, and notice carefully, I didn't pick Ripple for this because I think Ripple has gone up quite a bit. So compared to Ripple, I think Stellar is definitely another coin to take a look at. Stellar is, I would to compare it to an existing competitor to Ripple. In fact, I think Stellar is the main competitor on the remittances space. And one of the things that makes Stellar so awesome is that it actually has a lower market cap valuation relative to Ripple. And the second thing is that the code and pretty much the technology that they're using is very similar to Ripple. So you're pretty much getting Ripple at a cheaper price. On top of that, they already have an existing partnership with IBM using their Ledger protocol. So the way it works and the way I see this is that Stellar is going to be a very huge player in global market remittances services. And they may not compete with Ripple directly, but indirectly, they're almost doing the same thing. What I really see Stellar shine here is that they don't have the stigma that Ripple has, which is this idea with working with the banks, being a little bit more centralized, kind of having that whole issue with the escrow services, escrow accounts locked up. The supply count is very high, but if you look at Stellar, it's only 61 cents. Relative to everything else out, people tend to look at those underneath the dollar. So I think there's going to be a lot of potential for Stellar in that respect. Now, the other thing I see about Stellar is that it's actually going to be, if you take a look at their roadmap, you will find that Stellar has a decentralized exchange ready to go. In fact, they just had their recent ICO, which is called Mobius. and they did phenomenal, which means that in the future there's going to be a cheap way to get onto the Stellar network. They have low trading fees, and they're going to be competing with market makers on how to lower these up. So Stellar is going to be definitely a key player in the DEX protocol, or the decentralized exchange system. The other one is they also have Lightning Network on Stellar, and they're already working towards decentralization. So watch out for that one coming up. All right, the third one is going to be EOS. EOS, I think, is going to be one of the biggest coins out there this year, and one of the reasons why is because EOS has a business enterprise bent to it. In fact, we have a couple of large hedge fund managers who are working with the EOS fund, trying to raise money for EOS and attempting to basically put this platform at the forefront. Now, what makes EOS really interesting is that it's getting off of the whole ICO piece in June, which means that the pressure for the coin to drop is going to be constrained by the supply. The other thing, what ends up happening is as the coin gets off the ICO market, you already see the rising demand for the EOS as more announcements are coming out. So most of the time, a lot of the big announcements are coming out after the ICO is over, so that they can go ahead and launch the network and so on. So building a position here in EOS, it was pretty much a really good move back in November when it was only $1. So it moved up almost 14 times already since then. And I do think that EOS is definitely one of those coins that's going to do phenomenally well and continue to do so despite the market cap of $9 billion. Now, remember that EOS has a very large supply account here, but what they're really doing is buying real estate. So when you buy EOS, you're really buying real estate on the DApp market, which eventually a lot of these developers have to buy in to build upon it. So I like to consider it as, in order to play into EOS, you have to hold a certain amount of tokens. And as the supply for this, as the market begins to appreciate, a lot of these developers are going to want to build on this app. And what they're going to do is pay top dollar after the ICO is completed, as more people come in to start building upon the actual network. So I think EOS is going to be in a very good position, especially right now before June 1st, when all of the developers have already snatched up a lot of the real estate into the DApp market. So watch out for EOS, as I think it's going to take off. And it operates on a very different model from Ethereum. It's a lot more enterprise centric. And I think it's going to attract a lot of different companies that want to build on the platform that are ready to go. So this coin, I think, watch out for this one, because I think it's going to be an outperformer. All right, the other coin, the next one, the fourth one, is going to be Dash. And Dash, in my opinion, is going to be one of the coins that is going to be heavily used as a currency. Now, notice carefully, I didn't put Bitcoin or Litecoin in here. One of the reasons why I didn't do that is because Dash has one extra advantage with the governing system that I think is going to do extremely well moving forward. Their treasury system is the strongest part of this entire currency industry. And one of the reasons why is because the governance system allows Dash to be self-funded, while some of the other ones like Litecoin and Monero, they don't have governance systems. So in regards to paying your developers and making sure developers are motivated and making sure that there's money out there, you don't have to solicit for donations. Now, that's always a con to that, because most people will say, well, wait a minute, you're in it for the money, blah, blah, blah. But the reality is Dash is trying to commercialize the currency, their own brand, and also be able to have money to be able to sustain themselves. And so far, it's worked out very nicely with the masternodes coming out, and also with the partnerships with the marijuana industry on the payment processing plan, which is actually huge, by the way, is going to put Dash to the test in terms of the commercial use. So if you have not checked out a Dash, check it out. Also, Dash is releasing again their wallet, which is going to make it really easy to transact in currencies. But more importantly, I think it's going to tap into these other alternative markets that have been severely underserved by traditional fiat gateways. So when I'm looking at Dash, I am looking for that partnership with the business. I'm looking for that vision, which they clearly have, and I'm looking for that self-sustaining model of their governance system, which includes the treasury and the masternode, something the other coins don't have. All right, and my last one, my favorite. And by the way, these are not by any sort of importance. They are all weighted equally. I just put them by order differently. This one right here is my favorite. As you guys well know, this is my last top 5 pick, and this is going to be NEO. NEO is one of the coins that I think is going to get real close to Ethereum. I think out of all the platform coins from ICX to EOS, I think NEO is going to be up there. That's not to say that NEO is, in my opinion, going to take over Ethereum's spot, but I think it does have a good chance. Now, there's three reasons why. First reason is NEO is going to be heavily invested into the enterprise space, specifically with businesses. The second thing they have a great CEO and founder, Dang Hofei, who has articulated very well the vision of NEO. In addition to that, is building an ecosystem that's going to rival Ethereum's alliance. And what I really like about them is that they're smart about the marketing, they know how to communicate with the public, and they build projects that in the NEO ecosystem that actually serve a purpose and in reality are pretty good projects. Compared to Ethereum, where I think they have a different vision of allowing anybody to build a dApp, NEO has a roster of top quality dApps and also top quality talent, in addition to angel investors and venture capital who are coming in to back up these projects. And so I think that gives it an extra added advantage versus Ethereum, where there isn't really that much of a VC backing for some of these little smaller projects. The second thing I like about NEO is that it is indivisible, meaning that if you want to own one share of NEO, there are no fractional shares. You basically have to pay full price. So right now, if you want to own one NEO, you have to pay $160. Ethereum, you can pay fractions of it, which means that as NEO's prices goes up, it will begin to lock out a lot of people, which eventually will put this coin in the hands of people who are willing to invest it in the long term. The other thing what that's going to do is that it's going to constrain the supply of NEO, and at some point it's going to be a very good coin to hold as NEO begins to go in higher demand. The other thing I like about NEO is that it gives out a dividend, which is pretty much called gas, and gas is a function of the people using, well, it's pretty much a distribution of an extra payout just for holding the NEO. So you don't have to stake your computers. You don't have to set up a complex wallet. It automatically gets paid in a very clean wallet called the Neon wallet. And gas appreciates just as much as NEO and is required for hosting those, for running those transactions on the actual NEO network. So I think NEO it's a lot faster than Ethereum. And also it's building, as I was telling you before, these relationships with companies like Trinity, Ontology, and with the yNXtSRe, which is your decentralized exchanges. And there's a possibility that the Chinese government may remove the lift on the ICOs and potentially partner up with one of these more professional and hardworking coins. I've covered NEO for a very long time, so I'm very aware that the potential for NEO far exceeds its current valuation of $10 billion. Now, the value proposition for NEO is quite simple. Smart contracts, trustless, identity, blockchain interoperability, all play a very large role in the NEO ecosystem, which I think makes it stand out from a lot of these other coins. So if you're looking at NEO and you're thinking it's cheap at $160, try $1,000, try $2,000 when NEO runs at that price, because there will come a time when people recognize the value of what it was. NEO trading back then at $5 was really cheap for me, and I still think it's considered to be extremely cheap. So that's going to be, I think, the key player in this market. So obviously it's run up a lot. I think people are finally realizing its value. It's tripled, almost quadrupled almost in price since December. And well, here we are at $160, and I do think that we're going to keep on going higher. All right, guys, I hope you enjoy my top 5 long-term holds. These are the coins that I would basically set up a schedule. Like I would buy $5 here, $10 here, $100 here, $160 here every month, and begin to build that portfolio in addition to Bitcoin and Ethereum, obviously. So total, there would be, what, 7 coins that I would be looking at, and I would forget about it and just sleep well at night. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. Press like and subscribe if this is your first time in here. And there's a notification bell at the bottom where you can go ahead and click when it'll notify you of any time-sensitive videos I might have. Also, I have a Discord channel that you can join just for free for anybody just to build a community. Thank you very much, and see you soon.